Hello everyone, second episode of our Phantom Thief one-on-one series. This time we put the focus on the troublemaker of the team, Ryuji Sakamoto. Ryuji is the first friend you make in Tokyo and also the one with whom the adventure really starts. Both in daily life and in the metaverse, Ryuji is pretty bold and likes to charge in pretty much everything. His confidence is the easiest to max and can be maxed very early on if you want to. To become closer to him, you mostly have to be supportive during the confidence conversation, and you should be able to improve his confidence level every single time, meaning that it shouldn't take you much more than 9 afternoons to max his confidence, maybe 10 or 11 depending on your answers, but not more. The only specific confident perk Ryuji has aside from his standard combat perks is Insta-Kill. It gives you a chance to instantly win a battle after a successful ambush. To be honest, it is not the most interesting perk in the game, so I recommend that you max his confidence if you want to use him in battle or if you are curious about his background and personality. In combat, Ryuji serves one purpose very simple but effective, hitting as hard as possible with physical attacks. He uses bludgeons as melee weapons and shotguns as ranged weapons. Shotguns carry 2 bullets per round and only 8 in total. Even though shotguns have a very limited amount of ammunition, each bullet does a lot of damage, which can be very convenient if you want to burst down a specific target. Ryuji's element is electricity, allowing him to use Zio spells on top of granting him a resistance to electricity and a weakness to wind. As said before, Ryuji's main strength is to use very strong physical attacks. He learns a good panel of attacks, both single and multi-target. While most of these moves are very similar in terms of tactics, 2 stand out in particular. Headbutt and Bat Beat give respectively a medium chance to cause forget to one enemy and a low chance to cause despair to all enemies. These 2 moves are particularly useful for their added effect but sadly become rather weak as you progress through the game. Nevertheless, since Ryuji's move pool is very redundant and his magic spells are very limited, these 2 moves can be kept to cause forget or despair in specific situations, giving Ryuji a very small boost in his range of tactical possibilities. Aside from his regular Zio spells and Elec Break, Ryuji gets access to Tarukaja and its evolution Matarukaja, which boosts the attack of one ally or the entire party for 3 turns. On top of that, Ryuji is the only character on the party gaining access to the spell Charge, multiplying by 2.5 the damage of the next physical attack he does. As you can see, Ryuji is very good on the offensive side, but he is also the party member with the highest endurance and HP pool, making him the most resilient to enemies' assault, which can be very convenient in the highest difficulties. His ultimate move, called God's Hand, is a very simple move causing a colossal amount of physical damage to one target, useful but simple as always with Ryuji. With Ryuji being so focused on physical attack, the recommended build for him that I suggest is obviously all about physical damage. Once again, note that the recommended build is representative of what Ryuji will end being at the very end of the game, so you can adapt it the way you want during the game. Just don't forget the moves that are kept for the recommended build. First, with Ryuji being so terrible with magics and having such a low SP pool, I strongly suggest that you don't bother keeping Maziodyne, Elec Break, Elec Boost and Elec Amp. Maziodyne is useful only if you want to knock several enemies weak to electricity and do good damage to the others, which will basically never happen. Elec Break, as all other break spells, is a bit useless considering that 1. You can change your party members to match with enemies' weaknesses, and 2. Ryuji does terrible electric damage to begin with anyway. For the same reason, Elec Boost and Elec Amp are not worth keeping in the end, as they improve the electric damage that are already mediocre to begin with because of Ryuji's abysmal magic stats. You could, if you wanted, to keep only Zionga or Zio instead of Ziodyne in order to keep your SP because of Ryuji's poor SP pool, but Ryuji shouldn't use magic often, so you should be fine. Our second and third slot will be dedicated to Ryuji's best single target and multi-target physical moves, being God's Hand and Agneastra. Nothing very particular about that choice, these two moves are the best offensive moves for Ryuji, so they end up being must-have. The 4th and 5th slots will be two other must-have abilities, and these are Matarukaja and Charge. The first boosts the attack of the entire party for 3 turns, while the second makes that the next physical attack of Ryuji will be 2.5 times stronger. Ideally, you want to cycle through Charge and your most appropriate physical move to have the optimal damage output, especially during boss fights. But in the hardest difficulties, the ideal scenario doesn't happen often and you will need more than you want to use Ryuji to eventually revive allies or cure them from ailments, as Ryuji happened to be the character that should die the less on your team due to his heavy defense. We have 3 slots left, but already all the tools for Ryuji to perform very well, so what skills will we pick? 1 slot will be reserved for a special passive granted when Ryuji reaches maximum confidence level, being Evade Wind. This passive skill triples the evasion chance against wind attacks for Ryuji. Obviously, if you feel you won't have time to max Ryuji's confidence before the end of the game, or if you simply don't want to, you can use this slot for any other skill you like. The 2 last slots are a bit more flexible, but I suggest that you keep Headbutt and Bad Beats mentioned before for the added effect, giving a chance to cause Forget and Despair. Forget causes enemy to be unable to use any skills beyond simple attacks, making them harmless. Despair on the other hand forces the enemies to waste their 2 next turns as they lose SP and instantly die on the 3rd turn, so any enemy inflicted with Despair becomes totally harmless for the rest of the battle. You want to use these moves particularly against tougher enemies that you can't take down easily but you know can be inflicted with either of these elements. The passive skill Adverse Resolve can be kept if you happen to have Ryuji in your party often and also get ambushed often, as this passive increases the critical rate of Ryuji when you are ambushed. But ideally you don't really want to base your strategy on being ambushed, since it causes you to be at a serious disadvantage and raise the security level of the palace you are in, so this skill can be very quickly replaced with anything else. To recap, here is a list of skills I recommend using to have an optimal Ryuji sorted in a convenient order: God's Hand, Agneastra, Zeodyne, Charge, Matarukaja, Headbutt, Bad Beat, and finally Evade Wind. And that's it for our guide covering Ryuji, aka Skull. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you have any suggestion, comment or constructive feedback, feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. Stay tuned for more Persona 5 content, including the rest of our Phantom Thief 1-on-1 series. I wish you a very good day and have fun in game.